Afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's week is going well and their day today, and everyone's ready to enjoy a nice Torah class on the laws of Shabbos. Just to finish up from what we were talking about last week, Mani asked about if there's a cruise owned by multiple people and one of the people is a Jew. So in such a case, if there's one of the owners are a Jew, then it'll be forbidden to go on the cruise on Shabbos, unless the Jew sells his ownership of owning the cruise. However, just if a Jew has shares in the cruise, in the cruise, that's not considered an owner of the cruise, and it'll be permissible to go on a cruise that a Jew has shares to that cruise. So that's just to finish off about last topic. Now let's move on to the next chapter in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, which is chapter 75. Before we start learning chapter 75, which is Siman Ayin Hey, I want to share a story that I feel could be give some appreciation to the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles, the holiness of Shabbos, and also, as we learned in the beginning of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the beginning of when we started having these classes, the laws of preparing for Shabbos. So also give appreciation to preparing for Shabbos. So there's a lady who lives in Teves, Israel. Her name is Tovi Mordechai. She has a book called To Play with Fire. I'm just going to share a part that she speaks about in the book. She lived in Egypt during World War II, and during World War II, there were soldiers that came from there were soldiers that came from England to Egypt, and one of these soldiers came and stayed by her house in Egypt. Tovi was a Jewish girl, but not at all observant. And this English boy stayed at her house, at her home, and he wasn't Jewish, but they became friends to the point, and as time continued, they decided to get married. This boy from England later on after the war, they moved to England. They settled down in England. Tovi and her non-Jewish husband, and her husband was a big priest in a church. And Tovi as well would also be involved in the church. She kind of gave up on Judaism and converted to Christianity. And she was involved in the church. She would speak, preach in front of many people, hundreds of people, and people would feel very inspired by her. But she always felt to herself, I don't feel any holiness in this whole religion. So she started searching. She knew that she was really Jewish, and she started searching. Let me see what Judaism is like. Maybe there's some meaning and some holiness in Judaism. So she secretly would go around, find Jewish people, go to a Jewish shul, and learn about Judaism. As she was getting more interested about Judaism, she decided she's going to move into a Jewish home. Then she'll really get to know properly what Judaism is. A few days while she's living in a Jewish home, it becomes the day of Friday. On Friday, this Jewish home, like any Jewish home, is very hectic. They're doing all the preparations for Shabbos. Cleaning around the house, cooking, peeling potatoes, polishing the shoes, setting up the table, mopping, all the preparations that's necessary. And as it gets closer to the end of the day, before time for candle lighting, the mother of the house tells Tova, do you want to go in the shower soon? Go in the shower before Shabbos. So she's like, no, not yet. She's like, no, I'm always think I'm gonna go later. Waiting for things to settle down, for the house to be totally transformed into all set up for Shabbos. So the mother tells this to her, do you want to go in the shower a few times? And she always says no, waiting for everything to be completely ready. And she's also involved in preparing for Shabbos, doing all this hectic and busy work. And then it finally comes time to light Shabbos candles. And so the mother tells her, now we're going to light Shabbos candles. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go in the shower. The mother tells her, you can't go in the shower. It's Shabbos. It's going to be Shabbos very soon. You don't have any more time. Tova was totally upset. Like, this is some crazy thing. You're getting Shabbos is your holy day. And what type of preparation are you guys doing? You're just doing all this cleaning and cooking and this. That's not going to bring any holiness. Shabbos, you say, is your holy day. What holiness is there going to be on Shabbos? This is just crazy. And she felt that she's not going to continue looking into continue searching in Judaism. So she upset, goes upstairs into a room, and she's all feeling gross that she's been working for so many hours and she doesn't have a shower. Then after a couple minutes, after thinking how this doesn't make sense, that they're just like coming into Shabbos in such a way. In our church, she thought in the church that she was by, they would do a lot of meditating. That's how they would try to feel holiness. But after a couple minutes being in a room, she said, I always heard about that there's Shabbos, that they light the Shabbos candles. I want to see what it's like. So she goes downstairs, and all the girls are lighting Shabbos candles, and then the mother lights Shabbos candles. And after the Shabbos candles are lit, the mother finishes lighting Shabbos candles and says to her children, good Shabbos. And Tova just then felt, wow, I feel the holiness of Shabbos. I can't describe exactly what I feel. It's not something that she could really describe what that feeling was, but she felt holiness. She would preach so many times and she never felt holiness. She's like, now I never felt this before. I feel holiness from just the coming in of Shabbos with the Shabbos candles, that caused her to feel the holiness. And as I said, it's not always easy to explain. You can't really describe what you feel, the holiness, but coming into Shabbos brings holy. You could have that feeling of holiness, especially even though there wasn't any meditating before. There could be that feeling of holiness. All right, now let's go and learn inside the laws of lighting Shabbos candles. That's primarily what section 75 is going to discuss. For those that have the Maznayim Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it's on page 26. Halacha Aleph, the first Halacha 1. It's going to discuss when is the time that one should accept Shabbos? And what causes one to accept Shabbos? Is there something that a person does in order to accept Shabbos? Once one accepts Shabbos, then it's forbidden to do any forbidden labor, So let's see inside Halacha Aleph. Chayev kol odom lahafrish es atzmai mimalacha ulahadlik es aneres lefol hachachos chatzi shah kodim seis hakechavim. Everyone is obligated to refrain oneself from doing work and to light the Shabbos candles at least a half hour before seis hakechavim. Seis hakechavim is the time when you see 3 middle-sized stars. Another, which is nightfall. So at that time, one has to refrain a half hour before nightfall. It's necessary for one to refrain from doing forbidden work and to light the Shabbos candles. Now, the regular custom is, we see, you go to, you have a calendar, or you see online, go to Chabad.org or a different website, that you see there's a candle lighting time. So now it's more the accepted custom. It's accepted. The custom is to light, depending on the community, a certain amount of times before a certain amount of time before sunset. Whether it's 18 minutes, 20 minutes in Jerusalem, that's the idea that they would light. That's just accepted. What's been accepted. The people have a set time to light before sunset. If
Rabbi,
yeah,
what if you're in Nome, Alaska, and it's daylight 24 hours a day?
okay, that's a very good question. Let's leave it for a different time. It's a whole good, it's a good question, but I don't want to get too caught up with it because yeah. The im amru the base like Nessus Mishmasher Liyema Shabbos. If they said in Shul, the chapter of Psalms that starts, the chapter of Tehillim that starts Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, which is part of the Friday night davening, the Kabbalah Shabbos davening. If Afal Pisha Dain Yesh Shtei Shais Ad Layla, even though there is still 2 hours until nightfall, Mikol Makin Chol Shabbos Al Hamut Basur B'Chol HaMalachis. Nevertheless, the minority that isn't in Shul, it falls on them Shabbos, and they're forbidden to do work at that time. So we're seeing that accepting Shabbos is caused by saying Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, this part of davening. And not only that, this part of Friday night davening. Not only does the Shul accept Shabbos, but it causes the other people that aren't in Shul to accept Shabbos. Now, this is only if most of the people are in Shul in the community are in Shul saying this, saying Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos. If most of the community accepts Shabbos, then we say the entire, and they did it as a Shul, they accepted Shabbos as a community, then we say that the whole community accepts Shabbos. Now, according to the Alter Rebbe, it's not when accepting Shabbos is not when you say Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos in the Friday night davening,
Wow.
but it's the only way you can accept Shabbos in davening is by saying Baruch Hu. When the minyan gets up to Baruch Hu in Friday night davening, that's the time that Shabbos is accepted for those that are in shul.
Excuse me, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Are you Rabbi Smith or a different rabbi?
Rabbi Yossi Lifshitz.
Oh yeah, Rabbi Smith took off tonight.
Okay, I'm going to continue. Rabbi Smith is
No, I'm saying
Thursday afternoon class. Now when now when's the earliest one could accept Shabbos? If a person wants to take in Shabbos early, when is the earliest time they could take in Shabbos? For instance, it's the summer, and they want to eat their Shabbos meal not so late at night. They don't want to wait till 8 o'clock to eat their Shabbos meal. They want to eat it earlier. When's the earliest one could take in Shabbos? So according to the Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Brura, the earliest one could take in Shabbos is an hour and an hour and a quarter before sunset. And this hour and a quarter is seasonal hours. So it's going to vary how long it's not always going to be 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. Rather, if you split up the day into 12 hours, like we learned earlier when we were learning the laws of preparing for Shabbos, you split up the day into 12 hours from sunrise till sunset, and an hour and 15 minutes before sunset is something called Plag HaMincha, and that is the time that is the earliest time that one could light Shabbos candles or accept Shabbos in a different way. Now, continuing in Halacha Aleph, even if a person doesn't live in this city, but they're just visiting the city, it falls on that person Shabbos immediately when the community says Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos in the Friday night davening. And like I mentioned before, according to the Chabad custom is when you say Baruch Hu in davening, which is a little later on in davening than saying Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos. Now we get to a much more common case. If a city has more than one shul, then the law is that just because one shul accepted Shabbos by saying Baruch Hu or Mizmor Shir L'Yom Shabbos, depending on what your custom is, it doesn't cause the other shul to accept Shabbos. So nowadays, most communities, unless you live in a community that most people go to shul Friday night, you're not going to have the idea that most people accepted Shabbos and shul, unless you live in a community that most people go to shul Friday night, and even then, they daven Friday night davening before sunset. Most of the people in that city daven Friday night before sunset, so it's not so common, but you just have to keep in mind if that's the case. I'm assuming in Florida that wouldn't be the case, that most people, that you would say most Jews in the community go to shul Friday night, that you would have to take in Shabbos early if the shul says davens early. Now another important case is, let's say one's husband goes to a shul that davens Shabbos early. Does the wife have to stop doing forbidden labor when her husband davens Friday night davening and accepts Shabbos during davening? So there's different opinions about this. Reb Moshe Feinstein writes that it's permissible for the wife to continue doing work even if her husband already accepted Shabbos in davening. However, the wife should not do work that's specifically for the husband. Let's say if the husband had his own closet, the closet where he had his clothing, she shouldn't turn on the light to the closet for her, since it's solely for her husband. Or her husband has clothing that need to be washed. She shouldn't wash her husband's clothing once her husband already accepted Shabbos in davening. That's what Reb Moshe Feinstein writes. So in short, what do we learn in Halacha Aleph? We learn that when is the time that one should stop doing work and light the Shabbos candles? It's a half hour before night, and the custom is to light Shabbos candles around 18 or 20 minutes before sunset. And then that there's laws about taking Shabbos early. Halacha 2. Now we're going to go more in specifics about the laws of lighting Shabbos candles. And for starters, we're going to speak about in Halacha Beis, how many candles does one need to light for Shabbos, when they light Shabbos candles. Could be that you've gotten a package of Shabbos candles before. Someone brought over to you Shabbos candles. Either someone came to your house, or someone met you in your office and brought you Shabbos candles. Usually these packages have 2 Shabbos candles. Is 2 the amount that you need to light? Is 2 the amount that is preferable to light, or it's preferable to light more than 2? Let's see. Are there cases that it's preferable to light more than 2 candles? Mitzvah laharbeis b'neiros l'chavit Shabbos. It states in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that it's a mitzvah to have many candles lit for the purpose of honoring Shabbos. Yesh noigin lahadlik asara, yesh madlikin shiva. Some have the custom to light 10 candles. Others have the custom to light 7 candles. The reason for these customs are 10 is because there's the 10 commandments to be for the 10, because since that the mitzvah Shabbos is part of the 10 commandments, to remember that Shabbos is one of the 10 commandments. The reason that some have the custom to light 7 is because Shabbos is the 7th day of the week, to remember that Shabbos is the 7th day of Karika, and the world was, and there's 7 days of the week. That's the way Hashem created the world, that there's 7 days of the week. V'al roi shaloi livchis mishnei neiris, neged zachar v'shamar. And however, it's fitting to have at least 2 candles lit for Shabbos, which those 2 because 2 candles correspond to remembering Shabbos and keeping Shabbos. That there's 2 mitzvahs on Shabbos. There's the mitzvah to remember Shabbos, which that's by sanctifying Shabbos and having pleasure on Shabbos. Then there's the mitzvah of keeping Shabbos to refrain from doing forbidden labors. So you should have 2 candles to be corresponding to these 2 ideas that there is on Shabbos. However, if it's very difficult to get 2 candles, you still fulfill the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles if you light just 1 candle. The candle should be types of candles that can last until after one finishes their Shabbos meal Friday night. The Alter Rebbe writes that one should have candles that should last until the night. Until the night. So even if one takes in Shabbos early, they eat their meal before night, still they should have candles. According to the Alter Rebbe, it's preferable. It's not necessary. It's not that you didn't fulfill the mitzvah if you didn't do it this way, but it's preferable to have candles that will last until the night. One should beautify the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles by having nice candles. Not nice candles, but a nice light. Candles that you should have types of candles that give a good light. What's the reason for this? Because the Amar Rav Huna Harogo B'ner Shabbos L'Ishtadu B'y L'Aseis Yafa Heavenly Bonim Talmidei Chachamim. Rav Huna, who was a rabbi in the days of the Talmud, he says the one who regularly lights Shabbos candles and makes an effort to have nice Shabbos candles, he will have children, he'll have sons that are Torah scholars. Why does Rav Huna say this? Because Shenemar, it says in the Torah, Kiner mitzvah v'Torah or. This is actually written it's written actually in Mishlei, Proverbs, that the light of a mitzvah, that a mitzvah is light and Torah is the mitzvah is. It's written that a mitzvah is a candle and Torah is light. And he explains the verse as follows: Ayidei ner mitzvah ba or Torah. Through doing a mitzvah with light, which is the Shabbos candles, it will bring the light of Torah. It will bring a person to have the light of Torah, have Torah's children that are Torah scholars. V'lechein roi shetispalo ha'yisha b'shas hadlaka she'itin la hakadosh baruch hu banim scharim me'inim b'Torah. And therefore, it's proper that a lady should daven during the time of lighting Shabbos candles, that Hashem should give her sons that shine in learning Torah. And it's preferable that it's a good thing to give before lighting Shabbos candles money for tzedakah, a certain amount of money to give coins or anything to give money for tzedakah before you light Shabbos candles. The reason why it's good to give tzedakah before lighting Shabbos candles is because the time of lighting Shabbos candles is a very special time. And we want to ask Hashem for special blessings. And before you want to ask Hashem to be merciful to us, you should be merciful to others by giving tzedakah, giving charity, being merciful to others. The isha kshas ruach begidol banim she'ein la klal, and the lady that has a hard time raising children, or she doesn't have any children, Sagula shetaymer la'achar hadlakas haneres haftera shel yom rishon dereish Hashanah. It is a fitting thing that she should say after she lights Shabbos candles, the haftarah of the first day of Rosh Hashanah, which talks about how Chana praised to Hashem that Hashem should give her children. Chana did not have any children for a long period of time, so she was praying to Hashem and crying out to Hashem that Hashem should please bless her with children. And through her praying, the prophet Shmuel, she merited to have as her son Shmuel the prophet Samuel. So this is, and so that is the haftarah that we say on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. And it is proper that she should understand what she is saying and say it with concentration. Some other points to mention in this halacha is the time of lighting Shabbos candles, as I mentioned, is a special time. It's not only it's brought down that it's a time that you could have. It's a special time that you could pray for a lot of different needs, for sustenance, we said children, to have peace in the home, and it's a special time that people will spend, and in general, any type of thing that you want to pray for, it's a time that you could use to pray at the time of lighting Shabbos candles. So that is halacha 2. Now we're going to go. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, Will.
You mentioned some have the custom for lighting 7 and some for lighting 10. What about the custom for lighting the number of people in the family? That is 2 for the husband and wife, and then 1 more for each child.
Right. Good point. Thanks for mentioning it. That's also another custom. It's not mentioned in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, but that is a very common custom. A lot of people do that. I myself, I do that. That's what my wife does, and also she lights according to the people in the family. That custom is, I'm not sure the reason for that custom, but it's brought down for that custom. I'm not sure the reason. I could guess.
No guess. How far back does the custom go, if you know?
The earliest I've seen it is like a rabbi that came from about 100 years ago. I'm not saying that's the source of the custom. That's where I saw it written in a book of his. That's the source that I saw. There could be earlier sources as well.
Yes.
But it's a very common custom, and thanks for mentioning it. That people light according to the number of people in the house.
Okay, thank you.
Also, there are those that have the custom to light if they're not married, if they're a girl or a lady that's not married, to light only one. So those that even if there's other people lighting in the house, they would still light. We'll speak about this. There's who has the obligation to light more later in the chapter. Now, just to give some more background to the idea of lighting Shabbos candles, does anyone know what's the reason that we light Shabbos candles? What's the reason for the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles?
Rabbi,
Yeah.
because Adam after Shabbos invented fire.
He invented. He did invent. Yes,
Well, he
that's actually
discovered
the
fire.
reason. So that's actually the reason why we during Havdalah we use fire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyone have any idea what's the reason why we light
Maybe
Shabbos
to-
candles?
Maybe
What
to bring in the light of Shabbos, so to bring in the light and joy of Shabbos.
Spring.
Maybe it is a representation of the Sheshina that we are trying to bring in during the holiness of Shabbos.
So they are good. Yeah, these are good points. The idea of bringing in holiness to Shabbos and
Maybe
And-
because there was no electricity, and if you're going to have a Shabbos dinner, you want to have light for the dinner.
very, very good. Yeah. So you're saying that in order to eat a Shabbos meal, you have a Friday night meal, and it was a
Yeah.
practical thing that those days you're not allowed to light, you're not allowed to make a fire on Shabbos, or you're not allowed to make a fire on Shabbos. So you have to, the rabbis enacted to light before Shabbos in order that you could have light during your meal on Shabbos. Very good. That's one of the reasons. There's actually three reasons. There's three ideas of lighting, why we light candles before Shabbos. So as one reason is in order that we could, when we eat our Friday night meal, we'll have more pleasure when we eat our meal. We'll have light by our meal. So in those days, they didn't have electricity. So if you didn't light a candle, there wouldn't be any light at all. Nowadays, we have electricity, but still there's the idea of lighting candles for the purpose of having candles by your meal. And that is that having candles by your meal is there in order to make your meal, to give pleasure to have pleasure on Shabbos. And when you have candles on the table or by the table, that makes the meal that brings pleasure to one's Shabbos, even if there's already electricity. True, this law began before there was electricity, but the nowadays rabbis learn and explain that even with electricity, you're still doing a mitzvah of lighting. When you light Shabbos candles, when you have it by the place where you're eating, when you have by the place you're eating, you're bringing pleasure to your Shabbos meal, your Friday night meal.
Just yell out.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Well, and it also makes a clear division between Shabbat and the secular week.
Right. You're saying that bringing, you like it makes like kind of like similar maybe to what was in the story. Like you feel there's a transformation going on from
Yes.
weekday, right? So
And this is so ingrained in Judaism. May I just tell you a quick story? Many years ago, when we were still in college, my younger brother brought home a classmate for Shabbos dinner. Happened to be Hispanic.
mhm.
Thought he was Catholic. We went through our usual family routine of Shabbos. And when we were all through this, his eyes were as big as saucers. He said, I didn't know Jews did this too. But said, my family's done this for over 500 years that we know about, but we did it in the closet.
In the closet.
Yes. Family
That's,
escaped
Jewish?
Right,
the
these were,
Inquisition.
what's the word for it again? The hidden Jews, those who
They were
might
the
not even know they're
conversos.
Jewish.
They were
Converso.
conversos.
Moranos,
But
Moranos.
and they wouldn't even know that they're Jewish nowadays.
Exactly.
They don't. He did not know he was Jewish. He thought he was Catholic. And yeah, the term Moranos was coined by the Inquisition because Moranos is the Spanish word for pigs. So they prefer to be called conversos.
Okay, so it was a good point. It was a good point about the idea of making a difference of weekday to Shabbos, and it really makes a person a different spirit on Shabbos when they have the Shabbos candles. It really,
Yes.
so, which that's kind of along the lines with the reason I didn't yet get to, which is to honor Shabbos. The candles are there to bring honor to Shabbos and help a person experience Shabbos. It's so that's another reason to have the Shabbos candles. And now the third reason is not in order for your meal, to have pleasure by your meal. It's not in order for a person to feel, in order for there to honor Shabbos and to have a different experience on Shabbos, but it's in order that a person there should be peace in the home. If there wouldn't be any light, if one wouldn't light any candles, then, and it would be dark at home, there's the concern that a person might stumble over a piece of furniture or anything on the floor. So to prevent, since that on Shabbos you're not allowed to make a fire, you're not allowed to light a fire, so the rabbis enacted that you have to light a fire before Shabbos, in order that there'll be peace in the home. There'll be a peace in the home, that no one's going to trip over anything. When you have light, it will take away that concern. So those are the three reasons for why you light Shabbos candles. And now, as we go, this is just the background. We're going to discuss later in the chapter, how does it play out with, we have electricity nowadays. How is it going to play out nowadays that we have electricity? But we'll save that for when we get up to, it's going to be discussed later. But I just felt when we're going into these laws, it's nice to have that background, and it'll be easier to understand the laws when we get to it. Now let's go to Halacha Gimel, Halacha 3. This halacha is a little bit, nowadays things are a little different. That it's not so hard to find a good candle to light, but those days there were many different options of how to light things, make a fire. And certain things made a good fire, as opposed to other things didn't accomplish a nice fire. Nowadays it's pretty simple. You could go to the store, buy tea lights, or other forms of Shabbos candles, and they light very well, and you don't have any concern. But we'll still learn this halacha about finding good candles and good wicks to light your Shabbos candles with. Mitzvah min amufcher lahadlik b'shemen zayis. It is a choice way to light your Shabbos candles with olive oil. But nowadays it's totally a choice way to light with tea lights because they light also very well. I don't know if those days they had tea lights in the days of the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not sure. V'gam shemen harogul b'neinu shekeren shemen prachim, and also a very common oil in the days of the Shulchan Aruch, which is sunflower oil. Kosher, it is permissible to light your Shabbos candles with that oil. However, other oils, there are from those that aren't valid to light your Shabbos candles with them. So that's about the candles. Now, what about the wicks? The gamma psila, yehader shetehei mitsemer gefen oy pishtan oy kanavis. Also, the wicks, you should beautify the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles by using a wick that's made out of cotton or flax or hemp.
What?
Hemp.
Hemp with a P at the end?
Yes.
Hemp. H-E-M-P?
Okay.
Yeah.
H-E-M-P, hemp.
Yeah,
Hemp.
that's one of the plants that grows marijuana.
Uh-huh.
Right,
It is.
right.
Marijuana is a hemp plant.
I
Make
believe
clothes out of hemp. They can make clothes and a whole bunch of things.
Ropes are made out of hemp. There's no cannabis in
Very
it.
useful, yeah. They used to use a lot for clothes.
Okay. So it's a type of plant. Yeah.
So just light it and don't breed it. You don't want to breed
Nowadays,
it. You just
we
want
have
to
tea
light
lights.
it.
It's pretty simple. Because other wicks, there are some wicks that aren't valid to use for lighting Shabbos candles. And in the days of the Shulchan Aruch, it was in those countries, in those places, the custom was to light Shabbos candles which were made out of tallow, type of fat. And they are permissible to use for lighting Shabbos candles. However, to place a piece of tallow in a utensil and in that utensil there's a wick, it's forbidden to light Shabbos candles with such tallow that's in food. Now, the reason for this law is because you can't light Shabbos candles with things that are going to give a bad smell. So lighting with this would cause a bad smell. And why do we say that you can't light Shabbos candles with things that are going to cause a bad smell? Because you're supposed to eat near the Shabbos candles. And if there's a bad smell, you're not going to eat near the Shabbos candles. When you light the Shabbos candles, you need to light most of the wick. The fire has to catch on most of the wick that's outside the oil. And likewise, when you light a candle, when you light when you're lighting a candle with tallow, it needs to catch on fire most of the wick, most of that wick. Now let's move on to halacha daled. In halacha daled, we're going to talk about when is the time that you say the bracha on lighting the Shabbos candles. In general, you say a bracha before you perform the mitzvah. Does anyone know what's the reason why you would say you should say the bracha before you perform a mitzvah?
Because once you light the candle, you've already taken on Shabbos.
No, I'm asking in general, when you do not the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles. In general, let's say you're doing the mitzvah of putting on a talis, or you're doing the mitzvah of eating matzah, shaking a lulav, separating challah, whatever the mitzvah is. In general, we say you do the mitzvah, so you say the bracha before the mitzvah. Why is it that in general, you say a bracha before the mitzvah?
Because you want to bless your actions and create the blessing before it actually happens. And then when you light the candle, it kind of like brings it out, a thing.
Very good. In general,
חוץ מברכת המזון, חוץ מברכת המזון, which you say after the doing.
because that's not Berachas Hamazon is not a mitzvah.
That's when you wash, and then you bless, and then you recite the prayer.
Because that's a blessing out of having benefit. Yeah, so you have to first have the benefit in order to make the blessing.
Right.
But in general, mitzvahs, you make the bracha before, and as Rhonda was saying, the reason is that you want to bless your action. In order that to show that this action that I'm doing is a mitzvah. I'm not just eating matzah, but I'm doing it because it's a mitzvah. To show that your intent is to do the mitzvah.
Yeah, see, what about when you wash? Ordinarily, I've seen it done. You wash and then do the blessing. Is that wrong? You should do the blessing and then wash?
No, so that there are a few exceptions, and that is one of them. You should first wash and then make a bracha. The reason for that is because nowadays our hands we're not washing if the reason is that your hands are not pure, you need to purify your hands. So you can only make the blessing once your hands are purified.
Okay, thank you. No, we're doing it right.
So by lighting the Shabbos candles, the order is a little different. You first light the Shabbos candles, then you make the blessing. So we're going to explain why is that so. Why you first lighting the Shabbos candles and only after making the blessing. If we make the blessing first, the general principle is you first say a blessing, then you do the mitzvah. Why in this case are we doing the action of lighting the Shabbos candles and only later making the blessing? Let's learn it inside. It's already known that all mitzvahs in general, you make the blessing before you perform the mitzvah. However, when you light Shabbos candles, kiven Shabbos shebahatlaka mekabelas isha Shabbos al atzma. Since that when a woman lights Shabbos candles, she accepts Shabbos when she lights the Shabbos candles. Harehi haskola ladlaka. Sorry, babracha harehi haskola ladlaka. And when she says the blessing on the Shabbos candles, that's the beginning of lighting the Shabbos candles. And if this was so, if she would first say the blessing, she would no longer be able to light, because right when she says the blessing, she accepts Shabbos. And once she accepts Shabbos, she would not be able to to light Shabbos candles because lighting a fire is forbidden on Shabbos. Okay, therefore she should first light the candles. And in order to make that the blessing is before the performance, what she should do is she should spread her hands in front of her face so she doesn't see the candles. Like you'll see sometimes people are lighting Shabbos candles, they might first go like this, and then they'll put their hands to cover their eyes so they don't see the Shabbos candles till after they say the bracha on the Shabbos candles. Then after while she's covering she's covering the candles with her hands, she's blocking her face from seeing the candles. She says the bracha on the Shabbos candles, and after she says the bracha, she removes her hands and sees the Shabbos candles. Once she sees the candles, she's now like, it's considered like once she sees the candles, now that she's only first seeing the Shabbos candles after she's saying the blessing, it's as if she's only lighting it after the blessing, because she's only really benefiting from the light after she made the blessing. In order not to differentiate, we also say the bracha on lighting candles when we light candles for a holiday, for Yontif. We also say the bracha after we light the candles. Even though on Yontif, even though by a holiday you're allowed to light candles from an existing flame. Only on Shabbos you're not allowed to light candles from an existing flame. And the main candles, that with those candles that you light, you accept Shabbos, it's the candles that are by the table. We're going to learn later that you don't only light candles, you don't only have, it could be that you might not only have candles lit by the table where you're eating, but you could have candles lit in other rooms.
As he shows up in the afternoon class, he said he wasn't going to show.
What? What'd you say?
He probably was not talking to you.
Okay. Okay. And therefore you shall light the candles that you light by the table, the last ones, because once you light those candles, then those are the candles that are for accepting Shabbos. At a time of need, for example, that it's the night that if on a Friday night it's necessary for the lady to go to mikveh that night, or to go to a wedding, and the wedding is being held a little before Shabbos, and she wants to light candles first and only later travel to the wedding, and she wants to, let's say, go by car. Or there's something else that's necessary for her to do. Let's say it's necessary for her to eat after she lights Shabbos candles. So what she's able to do is she's able to make a stipulation that she's not accepting Shabbos when she lights Shabbos candles. And when she makes a stipulation that she's not accepting Shabbos, she's able to say a bracha on lighting Shabbos candles before she lights Shabbos candles. And the stipulation in your mind is suffice. So if she has in mind that because you can only decide not to that I'm not going to accept Shabbos if it's a need. For a woman, the laws about a man lighting Shabbos candles will be explained later in the chapter. But for a woman lighting Shabbos candles, she has to accept Shabbos when she lights Shabbos candles, unless there's an important need why she can't accept Shabbos when she lights Shabbos candles, like the examples we gave. And even when she makes a condition that she's not going to accept Shabbos when she lights Shabbos candles, still there has to be someone in the house that's going to accept Shabbos within 10 minutes after she lights Shabbos candles. It could be herself, or it could be her husband, or anyone else in the house. But there has to be someone that accepts Shabbos within 10 minutes from when the candles are lit, in order to show that these candles are being lit in honor of Shabbos. All right, I think we'll leave off. That'll be the last halacha we learned today. And
Wouldn't you mean that if she's lighting the candles before saying the blessing, she accepts Shabbos when she completes the blessing?
Yeah.
Right? You said when she lights the candles, she's in Shabbos already.
When she lights, in a regular situation, when she lights candles, she accepts Shabbos when she finishes lighting the candles.
Before the blessing.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Now, because of that, when you have the match that you're lighting the Shabbos candles, you shouldn't throw the match down, which is going to cause the fire to be extinguished, but rather you should just, you have tin foil or something, a safe place to put the match. You should just like drop it slowly or put it down lightly, that it's not going, and then the match is going to extinguish by itself. That'll be the better thing to do. Or you could just hand it to someone else, and someone that didn't accept Shabbos could extinguish the match.
Oh.
The match. Yeah.
I don't think we do that. We wave it around until it goes out instead of blowing on it.
So it's better to, if you could give it to someone else that didn't accept Shabbos, then they could cause the match to be extinguished.
Okay.
Or put it down. Yeah.
Rabbi, is that only in other words, with the reason you're saying to put the match on an aluminum foil is because you're going to do something that you're not, you have 10 minutes after lighting? Is that the purpose of?
So when a woman lights Shabbos candles, she accepts Shabbos when she lights. So now she's not allowed to do any forbidden labor. One of the forbidden labors is to extinguish a fire. So she shouldn't cause the fire to be extinguished. Rather, she just put it down on aluminum foil, and then the match will by itself be extinguished.
A good point.